Welcome to our YouTube channel, The Alien Tales, and please ensure that you have subscribed.
She experiences time backward. I'm her future. She's my past. When we meet, she's saying goodbye while I'm saying hello. She mourns what I haven't yet done. I yearn for what she no longer remembers. The quantum cafe hummed with temporal energy, its walls shimmering between dimensions. I'd been coming here for weeks, drawn by rumors of a woman who lived time in reverse. Scientists called it chronostasis syndrome, a rare condition affecting fewer than 12 people worldwide. She was the only one who'd agreed to meet someone like me. Kira Valdez sat at the corner table, her auburn hair catching the ethereal light that filtered through the cafe's time-warped windows. When she looked up, her emerald eyes held a depth of sorrow that made my chest tighten. She was beautiful in a way that suggested she'd seen too much. "You must be Daniel," she said, her voice carrying the weight of finality. "I've been waiting for this moment, or rather, dreading it." I slid into the chair across from her, my heart racing. "I don't understand. We've never met before." Her laugh was hollow, tinged with grief. "For you, this is our beginning. For me, it's our end." She reached across the table, her fingers ghosting over mine without making contact. "You don't know yet how much you'll come to mean to me. How much losing you will devastate me." "Losing me?" I leaned forward, desperate to understand. "But we're just meeting. Time isn't linear for me, Daniel. I experience it backward. Yesterday comes after tomorrow, and tomorrow already happened last week. While you're falling in love with me, I'm falling out of love with you. When you're saying hello, I'm saying goodbye." The implications crashed over me like a wave. "Then you already know everything," she whispered, tears forming in her eyes. "I know how this story ends." 3 days later, I found myself back at the Quantum Cafe, unable to shake the memory of Kira's anguished expression. She was there again, occupying the same corner table as if she'd never left. This time, her demeanor was different, less grief-stricken, more resigned. "You came back," she observed, though her tone suggested she'd expected it. "I had to understand," I said, settling across from her. "How does it work? Living backward through time." Kira's fingers traced patterns on the table's surface, her movements hypnotic. "Imagine watching a film in reverse. Every scene you witness is one you've already lived, but experienced in the wrong order. My childhood memories are yet to come. My death is already behind me." "That sounds impossible." "The accident that gave me this condition happened when I was 32. A temporal research facility explosion. Now I'm 28, and each day I grow younger while everyone else ages. In my experience, I just lived through years of loving you deeply, Daniel. Years of shared moments, intimate conversations, quiet mornings together. But for you, those years are still ahead." I struggled to comprehend the magnitude of her isolation. "How do you bear it, knowing what's coming?" "You learn to appreciate the paradox," she said softly. "I get to love you with the full knowledge of how precious our time will be. But I also have to endure the heartbreak of watching you discover feelings I'm already losing. Is there no way to change it?" "No." Her smile was bittersweet. "Time isn't a river you can dam, Daniel. It's an ocean, and I'm drowning in it backward." A week passed before I saw Kira again. When I entered the cafe, she was writing in a leather-bound journal, her brow furrowed in concentration. She looked up as I approached, and I caught a glimpse of something that might have been hope flickering in her eyes. "You're earlier today," she said, closing the journal. "I couldn't stop thinking about you." The admission felt both natural and terrifying. "I know," she replied, but her voice held less sadness than before. "In my timeline, this is when you start to really see me, not just the curiosity of my condition, but me as a person." I sat down, studying her face. "What were you writing?" "Memories. Things I want to remember correctly when I experience them for the first time." She paused, considering her words. "It's strange, documenting the future to preserve the past." "Can I ask you something personal?" "Everything about this is personal, Daniel. In your timeline, our future, am I happy?" For the first time since I'd known her, Kira's smile reached her eyes. "Deliriously. You have this way of laughing at my terrible jokes that makes my heart skip." You collect vintage science fiction novels and read passages aloud while I cook dinner. You sing off-key in the shower and think I can't hear you. My chest warmed at the intimacy of these unknown moments. And you? Are you happy? Profoundly. Her voice was barely above a whisper, which makes this so much harder. I'm falling in love with you in reverse, Daniel. Every day I feel a little less than I did before. It's like watching the sun set in slow motion, knowing that dawn is behind you. Maybe we can find a way. There is no way. There's only now, and the choice to embrace what we have. 2 weeks into our strange courtship, Kira suggested we meet somewhere other than the cafe. She chose the old observatory on Harbor Hill, its domed roof open to the star-scattered sky. When I arrived, she was standing at the telescope, her silhouette ethereal against the cosmos. I wanted to show you something, she said without turning around. I approached slowly, drawn by the graceful curve of her neck, the way the starlight caught in her hair. What is it? Our future, she replied, stepping aside so I could look through the eyepiece. The lens focused on a binary star system, 2 celestial bodies locked in an eternal dance, orbiting each other in perfect synchronization. They're beautiful, I breathed. They're us, she said softly. 2 entities moving through space and time, connected by forces beyond their control. One moves forward, one moves backward, but they never truly collide. They exist in perpetual approach and departure. I pulled back from the telescope to look at her. That sounds lonely. It is, but it's also miraculous. She moved closer, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. Do you know what happens to binary stars eventually? They merge. Sometimes, if their orbits decay enough, they spiral into each other and become something entirely new. A single, brilliant star that burns brighter than either could alone. For a moment, we stood suspended in the space between us, the air charged with possibility. Then Kira reached out, her fingers finally making contact with mine. Her touch was electric, sending shivers up my arm. Dance with me, she whispered. There was no music, but we moved together anyway, swaying gently under the ancient light of distant suns. In that moment, time felt negotiable, as if our shared motion could somehow synchronize our temporal displacement. The kiss happened 3 weeks after our first meeting, during a thunderstorm that rattled the cafe's temporal windows. Kira had been quieter than usual, her journal abandoned on the table as she stared out at the rain-soaked street. I remember this storm, she said suddenly. In my timeline, it's the night everything changes between us. I followed her gaze to the water streaming down the glass. Changes how? This is when you first kiss me. When you stop seeing me as an anomaly and start seeing me as a woman you could love. She turned to face me, her eyes bright with unshed tears. It's also when I realize I'm already starting to forget what it feels like to kiss you back. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Kira, do you want to know a secret? She interrupted, her voice barely audible above the storm. Every time we've met, I've wanted to tell you not to fall in love with me, to walk away before this begins. But I can't, because I remember how much joy you bring me, how alive you make me feel. I reached across the table, taking her hands in mine. Then don't think about the ending. Think about right now. Right now, I'm watching you fall in love with someone who's already forgetting how to love you back. Then let me love you enough for both of us. The words hung between us like a challenge. Slowly, I stood and moved around the table. Kira rose to meet me, her face tilted upward, her lips parted in anticipation or surrender. When our mouths finally met, it was with the desperate urgency of 2 people trying to stop time through sheer force of will. The kiss tasted of salt and sorrow, of beginnings and endings intertwined. Lightning illuminated the cafe around us, freezing the moment in stark relief. 2 figures embracing against the backdrop of temporal chaos. A month had passed since our first kiss, and I'd grown accustomed to the bittersweet rhythm of our relationship. Today, Kira seemed different, more distant, her usual melancholy replaced by something approaching panic. I need to tell you something, she said before I could even sit down. Something I should have said sooner. I took my seat slowly, dread pooling in my stomach. What is it? In my timeline, our future, we don't just fall in love, Daniel. We get married. The words tumbled out in a rush, as if she'd been holding them back for too long. 2 years from now, you propose to me in this very cafe. I say yes, even though I know it will end in heartbreak. My heart stopped. Married. We have 18 months together as husband and wife. 18 months of the kind of happiness I didn't know was possible. You make me laugh every day. You hold me when the temporal displacement gets too overwhelming. You research my condition obsessively, looking for cures that don't exist. I struggled to process this information. If we're that happy, why do you look so terrified? Tears began streaming down her face. Because in my timeline, those 18 months just ended. Yesterday, I watched you die, Daniel. A car accident on Meridian Street. You were coming home from the laboratory where you'd been working on a theoretical solution to my condition. The world tilted around me. I die. 2 days ago, in my experience, I held your hand in the hospital as you slipped away. Your last words were that you were sorry you couldn't fix time for me. Her voice broke completely. And now I have to sit here and watch you fall in love with me, knowing where it leads. I reached for her, but she pulled back. Don't you see? I'm not just living backward through time. I'm living backward through grief. Every day I miss you a little less. Every kiss means less than the one before. By the time you propose, I'll have forgotten why I loved you. I didn't see Kira for a week after her revelation. I spent the time walking the city, trying to reconcile the knowledge of my own death with the growing certainty that I was already in love with her. When I finally returned to the cafe, she was waiting with resignation etched into every line of her face. You came back, she said, though she didn't sound surprised. Did you think I wouldn't? I hoped you would. And I hoped you wouldn't. She closed her eyes briefly. In my timeline, this is when you make the choice that defines everything between us. I sat down across from her, my decision already made. I want to be with you, Kira. However much time we have, in whatever order we experience it. Even knowing how it ends, especially knowing how it ends. I leaned forward, my voice urgent. You said we have 18 months of happiness. That's 18 months more than most people get. And if I die trying to help you, at least I die doing something that matters. Her laugh was broken. You don't understand. By the time you die, I'll barely remember loving you. You'll be grieving a relationship I've already forgotten. Then I'll remember for both of us. I'll love you enough to carry both our hearts. For a long moment, she stared at me with something approaching wonder. You really mean that? I've never meant anything more. Kira reached across the table, her fingers intertwining with mine. There's something else you should know. In my timeline, this conversation, this exact moment, is when I realize I want to try. Despite everything, despite the inevitable heartbreak, I want to build a life with you. And now I'm terrified because I can feel myself forgetting why I made that choice. Her grip tightened on my hands. Promise me something, Daniel. When I can no longer remember why I love you, remind me. Show me these moments we're creating. Don't let me disappear into the backward current of time. I promise. 18 months later, I knelt in the same corner of the Quantum Cafe where we'd first met, a ring trembling in my outstretched hand. Kira sat across from me, her expression a mixture of joy and profound sadness that I'd learned to recognize as her natural state. Yes, she said before I could even ask the question. Yes, I'll marry you. I slipped the ring onto her finger, my hands shaking. How did you? I remember this moment perfectly, she whispered. In my timeline, it was one of the last times I felt the full weight of my love for you. After this, it starts to fade more quickly. We embraced across the small table, her body fitting against mine with the familiarity of countless previous embraces that I'd experienced but she was forgetting. The cafe's other patrons, mostly temporal researchers and quantum theorists, applauded politely, understanding that they were witnessing something extraordinary. I have something for you too, Kira said, pulling back to reach into her purse. She handed me a thick envelope. It's everything I remember about our future together. Our wedding day, our honeymoon, the apartment we'll share, the way you hum while you're reading. I wrote it all down while the memories were still clear. I opened the envelope to find dozens of pages covered in her careful handwriting. Letters to me, describing moments I hadn't yet lived but she was already losing. "There's one more thing," she said softly. "I know you're going to spend the next 18 months trying to find a cure for my condition. And I know that research is what leads to the accident." My blood ran cold. "Kira, I'm not asking you to stop. I can't ask you to stop because I know you won't. But I need you to understand that in my timeline, your death isn't a tragedy I mourn. It's a sacrifice I've already accepted." "I don't understand." "Time isn't trying to be cruel, Daniel. It's trying to be kind. By the time you die, I'll have forgotten enough of our love that losing you won't destroy me. The universe is protecting me from grief I couldn't survive." I held her close, feeling the terrible symmetry of our situation. I was falling deeper in love just as she was falling out of it. Our wedding took place in the same observatory where we'd first danced, surrounded by friends who understood the unique tragedy of our love story. Kira wore a dress the color of starlight, and when she walked down the aisle, I saw in her eyes the fading embers of a love that had once burned like a supernova. "I remember this day," she whispered as we exchanged vows. "In my timeline, it was 6 months ago. I was so happy then. I still knew why I loved you." I spoke the words I'd memorized, promising to love her in sickness and in health, in forward time and backward time, until death parted us. When I slipped the wedding band onto her finger, her smile was beautiful and heartbreaking. "Do you know what I'm thinking right now?" she asked during our first dance as husband and wife. "Tell me." "I'm thinking about how strange it is to marry someone while simultaneously forgetting why you fell in love with them. It's like reading a beautiful book backward. You can appreciate the individual words, but the story stops making sense." I spun her gently under the stars, holding her as tightly as I dared. "Do you regret this?" "No," she said firmly. "Even diminished, even fading, what I feel for you is still the most real thing in my life. You are my anchor in the chaos of reverse time." The band played our song, a piece I'd had composed specifically for this moment, knowing she would have already heard it countless times in our future. As we swayed together, I tried to memorize every detail. The way her hair caught the starlight, the soft pressure of her hand in mine, the gentle rise and fall of her breathing. "I love you," I whispered against her ear. "I know," she replied. "And tomorrow, I'll remember that you do, even if I can't remember why I should love you back." 6 months before my death, 18 months after our first meeting, I sat across from Kira in the Quantum Cafe, watching her struggle to remember my name. The woman who had once known me better than I knew myself now looked at me with polite confusion. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice carrying only the faintest echo of the love it had once held. "You seem familiar, but I can't quite place you." I pulled out the leather journal she'd given me, filled with her memories of our future together. "My name is Daniel. We're married. You wrote this for me, for moments like this." She accepted the journal with careful hands, reading her own words with growing wonder. "I wrote this. You wanted me to remind you why you loved me, when you could no longer remember." As she read, tears began to form in her eyes. Not tears of recognition, but of loss for something she couldn't quite grasp. "It sounds beautiful," she whispered. "This life we apparently shared." It was. It is. I reached across the table, taking her hand in mine. "Even if you can't remember it, it still happened. Our love still exists, somewhere in the timeline." "Do you know what happens next?" she asked, still reading. I thought of the research I was conducting, the breakthrough I was so close to achieving, the street I would cross without looking 6 months from now. "I know how it ends." "Are you afraid?" "Terrified," I admitted, "but also grateful. We got to love each other, Kira. We got to be extraordinary together, even if only for a moment." She closed the journal and looked at me with eyes that no longer held recognition but still held kindness. "I wish I could remember loving you." "You don't have to remember. I'll remember for both of us." As I left the cafe that day, I understood finally what Kira had been trying to tell me from the beginning. Love isn't diminished by its temporality. It's made precious by it. We are all moving through time toward endings we cannot change, but the meaning lies in the movement itself, in the choice to love fully despite the certainty of loss. Behind me, Kira sat alone at our table, reading about a love she could no longer feel but had once experienced with every fiber of her being. Tomorrow, she would remember me a little less. And tomorrow, I would love her a little more. Time is not a river or an ocean. It is a dance, and we are all dancing toward the same conclusion. The grace lies not in the steps we take, but in choosing to dance at all.